Hey everybody, good morning. Welcome back to another edition of Tyngsborough TV Live. Today is the Friday wrap-up. My name's Steve Rogan. I'm the town media director here. And I have a special guest that we're going to talk to in just a moment. I'm going to show you who she is just so you can see. But it is the lovely and talented Sue Arthur, the library director here for the Tyngsborough Public Library. Thanks for coming on today.
Nice to join you this morning, Steve.
Glad to have you. And so we're going to talk about a bunch of really cool stuff that has to do with the library. All these different new things that are available at the library. It's not just books anymore. Music, movies, which you've had for a while, but then all the other different services and things like that that you guys now have available, which is really cool. A lot of really, really cool stuff. So I'm going to go over that in just a minute. Before we do that, actually, Ray Sam, real quick, if you could grab grab the music on the TriCaster before you finish those shares. Sorry, we got a whole bunch of different things going on, and one of my staffers isn't here today, unfortunately. So, but I just want to go over quickly a couple things that are coming up. So, first of all, is the library book sale, which we're going to talk about. So that is happening next weekend, May 18th. It is Saturday from 8:30 to 2:30. This is one of the big fundraising drives for the library for all of the programs that they do. This really helps them have a lot of these programs. So if you are interested, come out on that Saturday, the 18th, from 8:30 to 2:30. And there's tons of like books and movies and music and jewelry and like a whole bunch of different puzzles and all kinds of really cool stuff. So come out and show some support for that. We're going to do I'll try to do a little teaser video on the Friday before the book sale starts, so you can at least check out what's there. But yeah, definitely come and check that out and show a little support for the Tyngsborough Public Library, because they can always use it. You can definitely always use help in the library department. Also, I wanted to mention that if you didn't know, today is actually yard waste pickup day. So if you didn't get your stuff out, today's the day to get all that stuff out. So your lawn clippings and your branches and all the stuff that got thrown down from the trees over the many windstorms that we've had over the last many months. Get all that stuff out to the street. And there's also another one if you didn't get your stuff out for today, or if you have too much. The 24th is the next pickup for yard waste. The June 1st is the Household Hazardous Waste Day. I know I've been talking about this a lot, so just remember that's coming up on June 1st. Also, if you have any questions about the whole recycling thing, we did that whole video last Friday with Donna Lane McPartland from the Board of Health about recycling kind of in ABCs. However, as you'd probably see in the video, we ran into a number of issues too, trying to figure out what is and what isn't recyclable. So there's still some questions there on some of the items. But there's still a really good resource that you can check out. It's recyclesmartma.org, I think. Yeah, .org, and that'll give you all the at least a search engine where you can type in an item and it'll tell you if it's recyclable or not. So hopefully that'll at least give you some guidance. Also, don't forget Memorial Day is coming up. That means the beach is open. That also means that the parade is coming up. I'm going to have some more information about the parade itself coming up very soon. Actually, Monday, I'll give you some info on that. But the town beach will also be open. If you're looking for passes, go to the town administrator's office. You can get your free pass. There's no cost to it, so just go in, tell them you want a beach pass, and they'll give you a beach pass. But you do need that to use the beach, because that's what lets you park in the parking lot and makes it so you don't get towed. So have that pass. Definitely. It's free, so it's literally $0, so you can come and get one, and you don't have to worry about it. Also, there's some events coming up this year as far as like recreation stuff. I'm going to go into more detail about some of these things, but Field Day × 5 and the block party on August 25th. Of course, the big thing happening this coming week on Tuesday is the elections. All of the offices that are up for election, you'll be able to vote on those. There are no contested races, so it's not a hugely. I mean, you still should go out and vote, but it's not like there's only one candidate running for each office. However, there is the ballot question as far as the golf course purchase and what the town should do with that, whether they should or should not buy it. So this is where the town will vote yay or nay on whether or not they want to purchase the golf course. And if it is in the yes, then it'll be brought up at town meeting, and then we'll go over numbers and how much money it's going to cost to actually purchase it. So that's going to be your opportunity to vote up or down the whole golf course thing. So definitely come out and vote on the 14th. That's your time. Definitely your time to do it. So also, let's see, elections. I'm trying to make sure I get everything here. Mention the book sale. Oh, and the last one I'll talk about before we move on is the play Les Miserables is happening. It's been happening actually last weekend and this weekend. So fantastic play. I got to go see it. It was really cool. These kids do amazing. They really do. And not only that, but they were nominated for 17 Tammy Awards, which is fantastic. From best performance, best play, there's a whole bunch of different ones, to a bunch of the individual cast members got like best supporting actress, best actor, things like that. So go check it out if you get a chance to. There's 2 shows left. Today is one of them, the 7th, the 10th rather, at 7 p.m. and the 11th tomorrow at 7 p.m. also. It's a bit of a long play. It's like 3 hours, but there's a little bit of a break in between, so you get to get up and stretch your legs, get a drink, have some, chat with some of the people there, and but otherwise it's awesome. I mean, these kids really can sing. It's amazing, actually. They're high school age kids too. It's impressive to see this stuff. And director Sarah Martin, who's the instructor there, she does a wonderful job reining these kids in and getting them to do their thing, though they really do it on their own. As far as reining themselves in, they really are very, very astute, and they really put their heart and souls into this thing. So the lighting's great. It sounds wonderful. The costumes and just everything. It's really cool. The pageantry of it. It's really, really nice to watch. So go check it out. Tonight and tomorrow night are your last 2 opportunities to see it. So with all that said, now let's move on to Sue. Actually, one more thing I want to say. If you are watching this broadcast, you can watch us a whole bunch of different places. And I usually mention this in the beginning. I forgot. I got excited, carried away with myself. Facebook, YouTube, TyngsboroughMA.gov, Comcast 8, Verizon 29. You can watch us all in those places if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Feel free to chime in and ask questions. I'm sure you'll have questions for Sue Arthur of some of the things that are going on at the library, at least hopefully. So start drumming up some of those questions. And we're going to move on with the conversation now. So, all right. So thank you again, Sue, for coming on. I appreciate you spending the day with me here. And so the library is not just, I keep saying this, the library is not just books anymore, right? There was the traditional libraries. You'd go there, you'd have reference materials and books and, fiction, nonfiction, adult stuff, kids stuff. But now it's like you've branched out into all of these different avenues with the libraries.
We do have a lot going on at the library these days, and I've talked in the past about the fact that for a number of years now we've really tried to increase our programming for all ages, and we've been very successful at that. We do, as you mentioned, get some funding from the Friends of the Library. They're very generous with us. And the Cultural Council, Tyngsborough Cultural Council, is also generous. And then we've gotten some very nice donations and have some other sources of funding for our programs. So we're very appreciative of that. Again, for all ages, and our summer reading program is robust. Lori Furtado, the head of youth services, is, in my opinion, magnificent
She
with
does a
her
wonderful job,
programming
yes.
for children, and we keep trying to find the programs that will attract the teens, and we've had some success with that. So yes, lots and lots in the way of programming, and we're doing some tying in the upcoming year some new approaches to programming. For example, we're going to do in October our first townwide read. So we've selected a book of fiction, and we'll let everyone know about that. And then for the month of October, we'll have all kinds of programs that tie into the themes of that book, the themes and characters of that book. So
do you know what the story's going to be already?
It is called The Clockmaker's Daughter.
Okay.
And
so how does this work now? Like, if it's a townwide read, does everybody read like a page or a chapter or something like that?
They read that book. Okay. We hope that every single...
you want everybody to read the whole book. Okay, I'm thinking...
Exactly. So what'll happen is actually we'll put the word out at the beginning of the summer so that people have time to pick up this book. It's by Kate Morton. I've read it. It's a fun book. And we'll get multiple copies, and we'll probably borrow just about every copy that's currently in the consortium.
Excellent.
And make them available. And so, yes, we'll encourage everyone to read the book and then come and enjoy the programs that we've set up that tie into the themes. And they're kind of broad in scope. There's a few things, without there being any spoilers. There's an art element to it. There's an English country home featured very prominently in the book, and so we've got programs. We've got one of our favorite program presenters, the Delvina Theater Group, coming in to do Isabella Stewart Gardner, a production about her.
Oh, okay.
So we're designing some programming that relates to the themes in the book.
Now, what's the book about? What's the story about?
Well, again, I want to be careful not to divulge too much, but it has to do with art and a death. It spans 3 different time periods.
Oh, okay.
And and maybe a little bit of the paranormal in there, and we will have a paranormal group coming in to do a program. So again, I'm going to encourage people to pick the book up and read it, and then we'll have of course some book groups, some discussions of the book, and various other related programs.
Excellent. So that's just one of many things that are going to be happening this summer.
That's one of many things.
Yeah.
Right.
What else do you have going on this summer as far as programs?
Well, Lori, as I said, is great. The theme of the summer reading program is a universe of stories, and so she's got some kids programming coming in relative to that. There will be a craft type program making little necklaces out of marbles, actually, and that's actually for teens and adults.
Oh, cool.
We will have, one thing I'm excited about, and we'll be talking about this, is our quote-unquote library of things, but we'll be getting a telescope to circulate soon, and we'll have a program around using a telescope.
Oh, very cool, yeah.
Astronomy during the summer.
So like a training sort of
a
thing.
Training,
Okay.
that sort of thing.
Cool.
And so those are some of the programs for the summer. We have some good programs running now. There's a small but committed group of people who come in and meditate on Monday afternoons. And
at 2:30 on Mondays, yeah.
Right, and that'll be 2:30 through the end of May, and then they'll switch to 2 o'clock in the month of June. And we have a committed group who come in color once a month. You know, there are programs that are sort of more special programs where we bring in a presenter, and then there are others that are monthly or weekly programs.
Well, you even have the kids. You have a lot of the kids stuff too. You have like the kids yoga program, which is awesome. I have no idea how Miss Ellen can control these kids. She's literally like the Pied Piper. Like, she gets them all to fall in line, and they kind of, start doing the moves and stuff like that. It's kind of hilarious.
Well, I think we'd all like to think that if our own kids would go to yoga, they'd all fall into line, and we'd do as well as Miss Ellen too. And she is fabulous. That's a program that we asked her to put together for us.
Oh,
and
really?
She
Okay.
is
that
a
unique
children's
to
book
Tyngsborough?
author. Well, it's not, although she started teaching that program and tying it into literacy. I mean, that's a piece of it, is tying it into literacy. And that's the piece that we kind of approached her about.
I noticed that there's
awesome.
an educational aspect to it as well. It's not just yoga, that she's teaching the kids things, like you said, literacy and so on.
She's a children's book author, and obviously a very talented woman. So yes, in the story times, and Lori again has a lot going on in the summer, community readers, and lots of programs tied into that theme.
Okay.
We'll also be having, and I'm very excited about this, from May 22nd until June 4th, we'll be having an all-school art exhibit, public schools, Tyngsborough Public Schools.
Oh, okay.
We've done it with the high school in the past, but this year it's expanding to the elementary and middle schools, and there will be hundreds of pieces by our students here in town. So I think that that's an exciting thing.
And so you'll adorn the walls of the library with
all these
walls,
every
pictures?
Horizontal space,
every flat space you can find.
The easels, the display case, just about every spot to get them all in. So we're excited about that.
Cool. So there's a lot of programs and things that you're running to get people interested and excited about what's going on at the library, from kids up to adults, which is nice, and includes even, I actually like how you do the summer reading program, where you have like a specific book and then you have programs that sort of tailor around it, which is really interesting, and it sort of helps to, I feel like if I was an avid reader, it would help to bring the story alive a little bit more, which is kind of a nice way to, but it's nice to see you guys do that. Now let's talk about some of the other stuff at the library, because there's not just aside from the programs and the stories and books and whatnot, you've got like some of the more common things I think a lot of people probably know about: the library passes for various museums and so on. We'll get into the Library of Things in a little bit, but you have a lot of really interesting extra stuff. Freegal is really cool, and then you have the New Wave documents. But what are some of the, before we move on, what are some of the passes that people can get at the library?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because we have quite a number of passes, a great number of passes. And the Friends, again, are very generous in their support of our pass program, but we've also used some of our other funds to expand the number of passes that we have. So all kinds of things for families and kids. We have the Davis Farmland Pass, a really fun one that we added in the last couple of years, the Seacoast Science Center, which is in Rye, New Hampshire, and right next to a state park. So, very accessible, not too far.
Yeah.
Very, very nice pass.
And you also have the aquarium, the Museum of Science.
The aquarium, I do feel the need to warn people that the aquarium is the only one of our museums and other venues that does not make their pass available in July or August. And so I just mentioned that so that people are
Good to
aware of
know,
that.
yeah.
But absolutely, the Children's Museum, lots of things in Boston. And we added in the last year or so, added or brought back quite a number of art museums because we found that the passes were tilting a little bit toward kids, activities for kids and families.
Yeah.
And
could
we're
see that,
more
right.
than happy to promote the love of art. And so we have the Institute of Contemporary Art, fabulous museum.
Wonderful museum, yeah.
Peabody Essex Museum,
Another
which
great one,
when it opens its new wing, which is about to happen or has just happened, it will be among the 20 largest art museums in the country. So
Really?
Don't miss the Peabody Essex.
That was already a big museum. I've been there a number of times. That was already a really big place.
It's a great
like they do
museum.
functions and stuff out of there too, weddings and things.
It's
so.
a great museum.
Yeah.
And so they've
Awesome.
had this expansion plan for quite a while. So that's exciting. Courier Art Museum.
Okay.
A new addition is the Tower Hill Botanic Garden, not so
One of my
far
favorite
away.
places.
Wonderful
Yeah.
place, and that pass is a little bit different in that with most of the passes. You can only take one pass, and the details are a little bit different from one museum or venue than another. But with Tower Hill, we'll let you take all of our passes out if you give us a call and request it. And that's just great for people who want to take a group, family when they're in town, that sort of thing.
Excellent.
So
yeah.
Tower Hill, another.
Tower Hill, if you get the
great
chance, once this nonsense goes away and we get some sunshine, go to Tower Hill. It's beautiful. It's one of the probably one of my favorite places in the state. They've got all these different gardens, and they've got the atrium with all the these really cool orange trees and just all kinds of different exotic species of plants. It's really cool, and it's a lovely property to walk rather. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yes, and once you get used to going in that direction, please don't leave out the Worcester Art Museum. Also a wonderful, wonderful museum. You know, in some ways a little more accessible than the big Boston museums. Probably a little easier to park. And
Probably.
but really quite a wonderful museum.
Yeah.
So
Do you have passes for the MFA as well?
we do.
Okay.
We have
No,
the
I actually
MFA.
just pulled up the website, and
okay.
I can actually give a live thing to get to the museum library. So you go under the collections tab here, and then you scroll down, and there's museum and library passes, and you click that, brings you over to a new tab. And yes, there's a lengthy selection.
There's a lot on
of things
that
you
list.
can do
Yeah.
here.
That's a long list of passes.
Yeah, kind of important to mention that they're all not museums or venues either. We also have passes to sporting events, and these have been popular, and I really like to get the word out to our local youth coaches.
Oh, yeah, see UMass
We
on
have
there.
spinners, right. We
Yep.
have spinners passes, and we also have UMass Lowell Riverhawks passes. And if you've never been to a Riverhawks hockey game, treat yourself to
Yeah,
one.
they're cool.
They're a lot
Or
of
a
fun.
spinners game for that matter. They're
And
awesome.
a spinners game as
Yeah,
well. Yeah,
they're very cool.
And I'll also
I see
say,
DCR on there too. What's that one?
so that's the Mass Department of Conservation and Recreation Parks Pass. So
oh,
yeah,
okay,
parking,
right. That's the one
parking
to park at any one of the parks
to
in the
park
state.
them. Yeah,
Gotcha,
that's great.
right. That's
And,
a good one. Yep.
That is really
I'm also
cool.
going to mention, if you go to the home page of the website and look over to the right, there's also a quick way to get to that museum pass, that same museum pass system.
Okay, so we're at the
There you
front
are.
page.
And over on the right side, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see a little ticket.
Oh, on the
and
right side, I
that's,
see it. Yep.
that's another link. So a couple of different ways to
Gotcha.
get there.
Okay.
Awesome.
And we, of
Cool.
course, can help anyone if you give a call to the library, but we encourage people also to go ahead and reserve their passes online.
Excellent. That is a really good
This is really
resource,
cool.
quite honestly. That just having the access to all those passes, and they're not so. How does the library come by the passes? Do the museums give them to you, or does somebody have to purchase the passes and donate them or something?
We
How does
have
that work?
just a few that the museums make available to us on a complimentary basis.
Okay.
They are the Salem Witch Museum, which is another fun museum to take in
That's
if
a
you're
cool
heading
one
to
too, yeah.
Salem,
Yep.
and the USS Constitution
Okay.
Museum. The other ones are funded either by the Friends or through state aid funds.
Okay.
The state makes available to us some funding that we can use at our discretion, and we've opted to, among
Yeah.
other things, buy passes.
Excellent. So there's another reason to come out to the book sale on the 18th, buy some stuff, and help support the Friends, because that's what helps get some of these passes out to you. I imagine the better they do, the more different passes you can get.
Right.
Though I imagine you run out at some point because there's only so many museums and stuff.
Well, people are always looking for ways to entertain themselves,
True.
the children, whatever. So
That's
we
true.
could probably add 10 more, and they'd be used. So it is a really popular program.
Excellent. All right.
And if I can just mention too about the
Sure,
book
yeah.
sale, it is a wonderful opportunity to support the library, and there are loads and loads and loads, as you mentioned, of books and DVDs, CDs.
Mhm.
And but I also want to mention that what was donated to us this year, and we're also going to include, are some artworks. Okay.
Oh,
And
okay.
most of them are signed prints by a very well-known New England artist, Emily Johnson. A couple of them are framed, and a number of them are unframed. So
Mhm.
they'll be available, and a couple of other works of art. And
Excellent.
I also
Yeah.
want to say that we have loads and loads and loads of jewelry, and it's an awful lot of fun. And we get lots of people in who really are willing to comb through that jewelry and find some treasures. And so we encourage people to come and take a look.
That's
at
become
that
a
as
very
well.
popular component of the book sale.
That's
I've
become
noticed.
very
Yeah.
popular, and as people seem to be downsizing, and I would say jewelry doesn't take up a lot of room, but fortunately they're also downsizing their jewelry boxes, and so we've got some lovely things, and some of them are quite lovely,
Yeah.
and definitely worth.
I mean, if you look at
taking
it
a
realistically, I say this to my wife all the time, and she just looks at me, gives me that cross look. I do this with shoes too, but you can only wear one pair of shoes or
Mhm.
one necklace, maybe a couple if you really want to throw it
Mhm.
on. But you can only wear so much jewelry at a time.
Right, right.
And a lot of this is costume jewelry, things like that. That maybe you wore for a specific outfit or something. And
A lot of
you
it
know.
is, but we also have gotten some nicer than costume jewelry. And in fact, I have a number of sterling rings and bracelets.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and occasionally we get 10, 12, 14 karat gold pieces.
oh wow,
Not too many, but
Mhm.
we do get them. So again, there are definitely treasures
excellent.
in on that table.
That's cool. All right.
And I'd also just, if you don't mind, like to put in a plug for helping at the book sale.
Mhm.
I know that there, in particular, is a need to have some people help first thing Friday morning to move books into the community room.
It's a lot
That
of
would be
books.
at about 8:30 till noon or so, the moving of the books.
Mhm.
And then there's a real need at about 2:30 on Saturday afternoon, when the book sale has ended,
Mhm.
to have some help kind of packaging the books back up. What we do is we box them all up, and then they're picked up by a firm that does a number of things with them. Some of them are sold, but many of them are shipped overseas
Mhm.
to countries that are more than happy to receive the books.
I can tell you guys that they definitely need help because it's a literal mountain of books. It's huge. It's a huge
Mhm.
pile of books. I feel
Mhm.
bad watching the guys lug it out that are taking it for the donation
Yes.
program. It's amazing.
Yes.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. So what else do we have on that board? I'm looking at the board behind you, and so we've talked about the library passes. Let's talk about Freegal, because that's been a cool one that we've
Freegal is a
been working together to try to promote.
A wonderful service,
Mm.
yes. And it is music, thousands and thousands of songs.
Mhm.
Big producer is Sony, lots of other producers, and it's free with your library card.
Mhm.
And you can download up to 5 songs a week, and you keep them. Unlike our other electronic resources that you don't keep, you do keep the songs, or
Mhm.
you can stream up to 3 hours a day. And it's a wonderful service and great to catch up on new music, but also to pull out old music. There are speeches, there are some children's stories, there's just all kinds of
Okay.
treasures in there. I sort of would encourage teachers when they're teaching history or other topics where they need speeches, civics maybe,
Mhm.
to take a look in there for the speeches. So yes, Freegal is a great service.
It's almost like a slightly more broad version of Pandora, where that's
Mhm.
more music and stuff. You can get speeches and sort of podcasts,
Yes.
if you will,
Mhm,
that
mhm.
kind of stuff on
Well,
Freegal.
and another advantage is that compared to some of what else is available
Mhm.
for free,
Mhm.
there are no ads. So
Oh.
I kind of like to
That's
put in
actually.
a plug for that.
Might have to start
So-
using that on my drive home because the
Yeah,
Pandora ads get old
yeah.
after a while. Like, all right, I don't want to buy Pandora. It's funny
Yeah.
that always. This is a little aside, but like the notion of how we used to all listen to the radio in the cars. Most of us still do actually. But you hear the commercials on the radio, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't fast forward. You can't rewind, and then they want you to pay for these services to not listen to commercials and to be able to fast forward and rewind. Like, I grew up listening to the radio where you couldn't do that, so that doesn't matter to me. So I
Yeah.
don't never plan on paying for
Yeah,
that service. But
yeah.
Freegal's free, so it doesn't.
Freegal's
that's
free.
why they call it
Freegal's
Freegal.
great. Yeah.
Right.
And the whole topic of our e-resources, it's
Yeah.
just worthy of a few minutes.
Yeah, go to the website.
Yeah.
tinglib.org, and you can see a lot
Go
of
to
this,
the
all this stuff.
website and become familiar with Overdrive, downloadable ebooks, audiobooks, videos they've been adding. I kind of like to show this. They've recently added Marvel Comics. Okay, so this is available
go.
through
Always popular. Yeah.
through Overdrive. Okay, and there are all kinds of things, books in other languages, fiction books, nonfiction books, travel books, bestsellers, biographies, everything. So, a wonderful resource, and I encourage people, if they don't know how to use it, to stop by. The staff will spend the time with you to teach you how to use it. There are all kinds of
I'm going to show that on the website right now.
yeah.
real
Oh
quick.
yeah, it's
things
very
to
easy to
talking
get
about
to
it.
too.
Pardon me?
It's very easy to get to on the website.
Oh,
It's,
good, yeah.
like, just go back, and then it's pretty much like right where the museum passes is. It's just right here, and then give that a good old click, and there's a big catalog here.
And so now these
Gardening
books, can you
and
put them
Marvel
on
comics.
your Kindle
They
and
can
places
go on the
like that?
Kindle,
Okay.
on all kinds of devices. And in fact,
Okay,
there's a
right,
really
so not just Kindle,
helpful help page. Overdrive has a very helpful help page, and one of the first things you do is choose your device, because the process could be a little bit different depending on whether you have, whether you're putting on your phone, your laptop, whatever.
Right,
device
yeah, the
you have.
devices are all, they vary.
Right,
And,
so
yeah.
that's great. And,
accessibility.
I'll also mention that we have a wonderful volunteer who comes in and provides tech advice on any number of tech topics. Twice a week. It is by appointment, and it will be one-on-one. So,
Mr. Delgadio?
yes,
Yeah, he
and
likes doing that,
I
yeah.
will, say he's available to help with Overdrive, but also any other tech thing you might have. You just got a phone. We often get, after the Christmas holidays, people saying, I received this X. It's an iPad. It's even a PC or laptop for some people, or this phone, and I don't know what to do after I open the box, and he's great about that. So it could be software, it could be hardware, it could be anything, but he can also help with learning how to use Overdrive. So
Excellent.
yeah, that is a wonderful resource. And another new thing about Overdrive is that while till very recently our patrons were limited to the Overdrive, the consortium's shared Overdrive resources, now we can borrow from other consortia in the state. So it just means
Oh,
it's
really?
a much, much, much bigger pool of books.
Oh,
You
okay.
could end up borrowing something from the Boston Public Library
Oh, wow.
via our website.
Very cool,
So
yeah.
that's just expanding the offering, and that's what's happening with a lot of these things, is that whether it's the programs, the databases, that the offerings just keep expanding and
yeah.
expanding.
There's,
And
there's
that's
so
a
many,
positive
there's
thing. Yeah.
mountains and mountains of books out there that you could read. I mean, you could read one every day of your life and still never read them all. There's so many books out there. It's pretty incredible, actually. Let me just quickly reset
Sure.
before I forget. So you're watching Tyngsborough TV Live's Friday Wrap-Up. My guest today is Library Director Sue Arthur from the Tyngsborough Public Library. We're talking about all of the different new programs and offerings available at the library, as well as some of the more traditional stuff, i.e. reading, but the new ways you can even do that. So pretty cool. There's a lot of different things. Check out their website, tinglib.org, and you can get all the information on all that stuff, or you can call them here directly at Town Hall. Is always accessible as well. And you can come to picturesque Tyngsborough, Massachusetts at 25 Bryant Lane if you want to do that too. So don't forget, you can watch this broadcast Facebook, YouTube, tyngsboroughma.gov, and Comcast 8, Verizon 29. And if you're watching on either Facebook or YouTube, let me go look at YouTube real quick, you can chime in and ask questions if you'd like to. So feel free to throw something out there if you have a question for our library director. So moving on now, I want to ask you about, let's talk about New Wave, which is another cool offering at the library where you can get all kinds of like documents for anything, basically, any type of legal documents you want.
Yeah, I have a particular affinity for New Wave because I think it's really among the more practical of our databases, because who at one time or another doesn't need a legal document for one reason or another. So you're selling your boat, just go in and you can pull up a form for the sale of a
the
boat
bill
or
of
a
sales
car or whatever, and it's all
or
based
wills or all that stuff.
wills, guardianship, healthcare proxy. It's a pretty lengthy list. There are thousands, and they're fillable forms. So you just fill in your information and printed out, tenant agreements, all sorts of things. And they're based on Massachusetts law. So that's, I think one could feel pretty safe using them.
Right, yeah. Well, I mean, there's services on the internet where you'd pay for this kind of thing, but you can get that for free. I mean, clearly, some of the things you might want to maybe consult with a lawyer for on some of these, the more, the bigger deals. But like a bill of sale, I mean,
Right.
it's fairly cut and dry in a boilerplate document. And a lot of the other ones are the same thing. But it's a nice resource to have, because at least it gives you some idea of what the questions on these documents would be, the things you have to fill out. So if you're going to derive questions, you don't have to pay a lawyer
Right.
by the hour to answer all these questions. You can already have them all written down and ready to go. If it's a will or something to that effect.
Right. In some ways, you're right. A research tool as well as a practical tool.
Right.
So New Wave, that's a great database. And
how did the library get hooked up with New Wave? Where did that?
well,
that come about?
I'm just always on the lookout for practical tools that are affordable and will have some appeal. So it's one of many products I look at in the course of any given year and decide to add or not add.
So let me ask you this, on kind of a broad sense, all of these offerings that you have on the library, we already talked about the passes, of course, that costs some money to get. Do these other services cost money of the library to be able to be part of and be able to make available?
That's a great question, and there are a couple of different models. We're fortunate to live in Massachusetts, a state that values education and values its libraries. So the Mass Board of Library Commissioners provides quite a number of the databases. And maybe you can also show, the e-resources, how to get to the databases.
Yeah.
So the Board of Library Commissioners provides a number of them.
Okay.
We pay for some of them through our membership fees to the consortium,
Okay.
Merrimack Valley Library Consortium. And what's happened with that is that because they're representing 37 libraries, they can negotiate basically a better fee. So
I see. Okay.
for example, in the case of Friegel, I couldn't have afforded it on my own, but once a better price was negotiated, I could get that database through MVLC. And then others just come out of my library budget. I've set aside a certain amount of money each year to stay on top of the databases and be able to offer a few other things. So in the case of, for example, New Wave, that comes out of the budget. A few other sources of funds, again, we've received some nice donations, but primarily the other three. We have a great database called A to Z Travel that, in a lot of ways, A to Z USA. It covers every state in detail, including some tourism information. So it's just kind of a great resource if you plan to do any travel. Or for students, of course, or anyone who needs some information about a particular state. But there are a number. There's one that covers the smaller newspapers all over the U.S. So that's
really?
interesting to people for genealogical research, current events.
Sometimes you just want to know if you have relatives living in a certain town or whatever. You can kind of read their local newspaper and see what's going on. Or, I'd even say this: if you're thinking about moving to another part of the country and you want to see like what are the topics that they're talking about, how do they think about their schools and so on and so forth, that might be an interesting way to research and find out what's going on. I mean, clearly you can do it on the internet, but it's not always as easy sometimes to get, because a lot of these smaller papers they charge for looking at maybe back past issues or whatever. So that's an interesting maybe it might be an interesting
it's an
angle
interesting
on that.
one. Yeah. And actually there's another database similar to A to Z USA, Global Road Warrior. I always thought that was kind of a funny name, but covers goes
Sounds like a
into
Mad Max
other
film.
countries covers 20 different topics on other countries as well.
Oh,
So
okay.
again, whether it's travel or plans to relocate, should we all be so lucky to be able to live in another country? But some
someplace
great
warm,
databases for
where
the
sun shines.
the technically inclined. Safari, great database, full text of thousands of technical books. No older than 3 years, so that's a great database for people who are.
Sam's got that up on screen. I'm
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
pop that up on there for a second.
I'm
Safari's
looking
a
at
great
this, and
database.
as you said, this is like an expansive thing from just like from the homepage, from featured albums to the music videos to the audiobooks. One thing that's interesting to me is the complete radio broadcast of the Superman show.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah,
That and even Orson Welles' Worlds.
Well, I'm glad
we should play that on TV sometime.
Yeah,
See
well,
how many
I'm
people
glad
we
you brought
freak
it up
out.
because how many people
Hopefully
are
we
going to
wouldn't.
be in the car for how many hours this
Oh, right, yeah.
summer?
Yeah.
I know we took out an audio book on the Twilight Zone, the original Twilight
Oh, cool.
Zone
Yep.
series, and that made for a shorter visit to shorter trip to New York State.
Yeah, it helps pass the time, and you don't
Yeah,
always want to
yeah.
listen to music, or you
Right.
want to maybe if you have your kids in the car, you'd like to educate them a little bit at the same time. So you listen to a good a good book, an ebook or a podcast or something to that effect.
Right,
Though they'll still yell about that too. But
Yeah.
Daddy, change it.
Well,
I don't want to listen to All Things Considered.
I want the shark song there. Oh my God! If I have to
Yeah.
hear that one more
Baby
time,
shark.
Baby Shark. Yes.
yeah.
So before we move on, let me throw this out there
Yeah, sure.
as an aside. So all of these services and things that you make available, you guys, the library makes them available for free to the residents of the various communities. However, they cost the library money. So ways you can help out. The book sale is one of them. Donations, things like that. But if that's sort of out of your reach, or you just don't have expendable cash, like a lot of us do, you could just getting your library card and making use of these services so that it shows that these things are being, used. It shows to the towns that they're actually people are taking advantage of these services. So that kind of helps too. I would imagine. Just go get your library card. It's free. You know what I mean? And you get
right.
you get to take
Of
advantage of all
course.
this stuff, which is cool.
Yes, of course.
Sorry,
and
I'm just
please,
gonna beat up on you guys for that one a little bit.
no, please, and
Not you, them, the residents.
yeah, let us know what it is you'd like to have us try to offer too. And if you're not a library card holder, again, become one, or just come in and tell me why is it that you're not using your library, because you're right, there is a treasure trove of
Yeah, there really is.
resources there, and if we're not offering something you think would be helpful to have, come on in and we'll chat about it.
Let me ask you this: what do you think the library looks like 20 years from now? Is it still servicing the books, the print materials, or do you think that stuff is going to slowly start kind of changing into just an electronic version, an electronic format? Do you think books will still be around in 20
I think
years,
that's
30
a
years?
good question. Well, I guess I would bring you back to Alexandria.
Good point, yeah.
I think that books have been around for a long time.
Yeah,
and,
that's true.
do I think, we're slowly replacing print materials? I do. Do I think that, with each generation, people are more comfortable using electronic versus having a book in their hand? I do think that's the case.
Yeah.
I still hear from people of all ages that piece about I want to hold the book in my hand. So I'm
The
guessing
smell
that
of the paper,
there will be some sort of hybrid, in the future. Eventually, only electronic. It's hard for me to kind of go that far into the future. Again, I take you back to Alexandria, but
Right.
the early libraries I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
yes, we're in a period of transition,
Yeah.
and more is delivered electronically, and we're trying to move right along with that. But there are still people who appreciate the physical aspect of
Yeah,
the book.
no, it makes sense. I mean, like I said, my mom, I remember she used to read a lot, and still does, and would always, one of her favorite things to do is to like the smell of the paper and the book itself. It always had the kind of unique smell. I don't think that'll ever go away for most people that like to read. But I kind of think, in my mind, anyways, what might disappear is like the magazines and the newspapers and that kind of stuff. But your books, your actual, fiction, nonfiction, whatever books, children's books, all that stuff, that'll still get printed, I think, anyways.
For a while.
'cause I mean,
I
how-
do think for a while. And I do think you're right about magazines. I mean, many of us already are gathering those little sort of chunks of information versus book from so many different
Right, you can get it all on the
sources.
internet,
But
any
I think
search
that,
engine.
I think that that's part of the challenge of libraries and librarians is to sort out our role in all of that. And I think that many of us would agree, and we try to teach the kids this, that free isn't always quality.
Right,
And
true.
that,
That's a good point.
one thing that your library will do for you is vet the information and the resources and try our best to put quality resources in front of you. So there's that piece as well.
I will say this: it drives me bananas when I read articles online and the typos. and the grammatical errors. Like, I'm no English major, I'll tell you that right now, but like you read stuff and they're just using the wrong words, or they just didn't even bother to spell check the darn thing. Like, come on, guys,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
But it's
yeah.
free. Like you said, it's a free
Right,
thing you're
right.
getting online, so it's
Mm.
kind of, you know, granted they put ads on it, but that doesn't count to me
I
anyways.
think though that a great resource that libraries add beyond like the books, beyond like the audio CDs and things like that, is a quiet place to be.
True.
You
Yeah.
know, like ultimately, like how many places can you go that there is a good designated quiet zone where people are like in a mindset to either learn, to just take like a break or anything else like that, and like thankfully it's air conditioned.
No, that's true.
Right.
Good point. No,
Right.
that's a good point.
So
Yeah.
I think that definitely like libraries will
Right.
always like hold that as a society. Like,
Though
like,
it's
we'll always have
not
that.
quite as quiet as it. Like, I remember back in the day when I was younger, going to the libraries, into the library, and the ever present shh. You know, you'd get that if you were like
Right,
talking over like a
right.
dull, you know, a dull roar. They would get you, but it's not quite that bad anymore. I mean, you can have a quiet-ish
having
conversation.
Pokemon battles,
and
but that's
still-
awesome though.
Right, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Well, but you bring up I think a really important point, which is we need both. And you're right, we're not shushing people so much anymore. And one of the things that's come along with the move towards getting so much of your information online, people are attached to their laptops. They may be more isolated, and that's where the programming comes in the library's community center comes in. But also, you know, this town is looking at space needs, and we need more space because we need to offer what you're suggesting is a really important part of library, which is some quiet space.
Just a
But we
quiet zone,
also
yeah.
need the community space.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's, you know, I would love to hear from people who would sort of like to see both, because we can then present that to the town as, you know, a valid reason to have a little bit more time. Quiet study, carols, rooms, meeting spaces, you know, people clamoring for small group meeting spaces. We do programming, we can use this room,
Right.
you know, our story time room, but people have other reasons to meet and to be able to offer a small room for other purposes. For
No, it makes
residents.
perfect sense. Yeah. Well, one nice thing that we should mention is that that our library here has the nice outdoor area where you can kind of go sit, throw a blanket down, have a little quiet area behind the building, and just read your book and relax a little bit, get a little sun if it ever comes out.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful, beautiful library.
Yeah.
Garden. It
Yeah, the
really
garden
is. In
area,
the
yeah.
summer, full picnic tables. We
Oh, that's
encourage people to
beautiful.
come out. There's an
Nice.
awning if you happen to get there when
Right.
the sun
right.
is kind of glaring.
I swear the plants are trying to come out. They're doing their best.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah.
It's like, oh, today
They're drowned
no.
at this point, but I think today they're back in hiding.
And Steve, I want to make sure we're going to have a few minutes to talk about.
Yes, that's what I wanted to
Okay,
get into
good.
next. Yeah.
Good.
So I was sort of going to parlay this conversation into some of the other things. So it's not just books and museum passes and all the other things that we mentioned, but you have newer things to try to modernize or broaden, I guess, the offerings that the library has with this library of things, you call it, where it's different items that you people can take out and use. It's everyday kind of items or unique-ish items, I guess I would say. So I won't describe them all, but I'll let you kind of talk about it. So what sort of things can people expect to see from the library of things?
Yeah, and it's a kind of an exciting thing we think that's happening. And if we think back a couple years, we've slowly started to move in the direction of offering these other kinds of things. And in some ways, it started with a book was no longer just a book. It might be part book, part audio book, or
Okay.
we were...
That's sort of the roots of it? I never actually thought of that. Okay.
Well, I'm just thinking about the evolution and educational tools moving away from being just books to, for example, a preloaded launch pad, we call them, which is basically a tablet with a body of information. These happen to be for children. But yeah, the library of things. So maybe a year and a half or two ago, we did a ukulele program, and we got
Which
a
was really
couple
popular.
of that was very popular, and we bought a couple of ukuleles to circulate. And this year we've moved even more in the direction of these other things. So we have, for example, a soil tester.
Okay.
We have a laminator. We have a number of fitness-related items like a pickleball kit.
Oh, cool.
Like a very cool, I have to say, a push-up, sort of this push-up frame that exercises different muscles depending on where you put the push-up bars in the frame. Other kinds of fitness kits. Did I mention the laminator? a daylight therapy lamp. What else have we got?
Can we use that right now? I could totally use some daylight therapy.
Daylight therapy lamp. Some kits that are sort of craft oriented, like a lettering kit, a knitting kit.
Oh, okay, cool.
Of course, as I mentioned, very excited about getting the telescope. So just a wide variety, and we hope to just keep growing it. I'm just looking to see what else I have here. Yeah.
I will say on the ukulele note, I didn't get to go to the class, but I borrowed one of your ukuleles, and I got so interested. So I play guitar too, which is, that helps. But I got so into it that I was like, I need to buy my own ukulele, and I went and bought my own ukulele. And now I just mess around with it when I have time. But it's neat because it gives you sort of a springboard into other things that maybe you might not have tried otherwise, because you have to spend money to buy these things and so on. So you can kind of like try them out for free, and then like, oh, I like that. I want to get my own pickleball set, or I could really use that soil tester because I used it a lot.
Right.
So get your own or something.
Right. So often people only need to use things a couple of times.
Or there's that too, right? Like a laminator.
Wouldn't warrant buying one.
Right.
Hope to get a bird watching kit with binoculars. Just a variety of things.
Yeah. Lots
we
of
have
places you can go
a
look at
pedal
birds around.
exerciser. We have a pedal exerciser.
That's awesome. Like with the knitting kit, do you have to provide your own yarn, or like how does that work? Because I'm looking at it over there and it's interesting me.
Yeah, that you do have to do.
You're gonna start knitting, Ray Sam?
You do have to provide your own yarn. Actually, one of the women on my staff, Sam, will be starting a knitting club this fall. If she does that, then
Awesome.
we'll probably provide a little bit of yarn initially. But yes, people would need to provide their own
Makes sense.
yarn.
There's a number of places around too that sell just a myriad of yarn and colors and my goodness, it's a pretty big. It's funny because you think it's like this couple of little old ladies or something knitting, but no, there's a lot of people that knit. There's actually quite
one of my friends actually does crocheting and like knitting of swimwear and like bikini wear and stuff like that too. It's like really cool.
Crocheted swimwear.
Yeah, no.
That's
shout
interesting.
Out to Lima Loops on Facebook.
Yeah.
Crocheted. So I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
Oh no, I'll show you afterwards. It's really cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you have a lot of really cool stuff that are available
great
for
stuff.
folks. Okay. And now you talked about expanding it at some point in the future, and people can kind of ask like, oh, what about something like this?
Sure.
Or that, so
always
how
open.
would people submit that
Always
stuff?
just march right on in. At this point, I'm doing all of that selecting, so march right on into my office. The door is almost always open.
If you're here, right.
If I'm here, yeah. But I'm happy to hear their ideas. And remember that the consortium offers all kinds of things, too. I mean, some libraries are... one is circulating cake pans. We've kind of decided we'll stay out of the cake pan business, but
was it
good
Drake It, I think, or
Drake It has many of those sort of theme-oriented cake pans. But yeah, the libraries are circulating all kinds of things. Hotspots, which I hope to do. That's for it's like a mobile modem if you
for Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: so the folks can get stuff in the consortium through the different libraries. Can they do that with the Library of Things as well, or is that sort of you have to be a member of that?
Well,
particular
every
library
has its own policies regarding it, and
Gotcha.
so it's really going to depend on what the item is. I certainly wouldn't let something delicate. I wouldn't let our telescope go through, other things possibly, and that policy is set by individual libraries.
Okay. I like your bird watching kit idea, because that could be neat for a sort of a collaboration with us as well with PEG, because we have still cameras and stuff, and people like to bird watch, but then snap a photo of said bird. So
that's
maybe
great.
because it's kind of like the hunt. Like there's people that are really into bird watching, like super duper bird hunters. And I don't mean hunting, killing, but like just they take a picture of these things.
There you are.
Yeah, right. And they spend like hours and hours stalking these things to get get a look at like this elusive whatever thing. But it's kind of that'd be pretty neat though.
That would be
we should talk
great.
about that,
And actually, it makes me think too to mention that we have a nice little gallery, and we have your photo contest submissions on display, and we do that twice a year. And we also have a wonderful person, Nick DePasquale, who's teaching a photography course. He's taught it a couple times, and we'll have his work on, or the student work on display. And we invite artists to get in touch with us to show their work.
You've had some really cool stuff. I mean,
we've had some great stuff.
The different. So you have the floral art that was here. Was that a month ago? Barely. All the different floral arrangements, and you've had like some different types of unique like ethnic paintings. I think there was one that was like Japanese, I believe
Oh,
it
we
was.
did have, right.
And
we had,
the
Chinese she was.
Chinese, excuse me, that's what I meant. Amazing stuff though.
Some
really
beautiful
cool,
work,
yeah.
right.
I
So
mean,
we encourage people.
These are things you'd expect to see in like some of the bigger, Boston type museums,
Mhm.
but you get to see them in your local public library.
Yes.
So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's
you know?
great.
Yeah.
And we're always happy to collaborate with
Mhm.
residents. And in fact, as far as our programs go, several of them now and in the past have been offered by people who just have a talent to share. Nick, amazingly giving with his photography classes. Jan Price teaches a meditation class, or I should say hosts it, but she's also taught yoga in the past. So we also encourage residents, if they have a talent that they'd like to share, to come forward, and we'd be happy to talk about.
That's an excellent point.
program.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we should underline that because that's an excellent point. If you are out there and you have a specific skill, you could come in and teach a program at the library. You've had things like the brewing program that came through was really pretty well received.
That was a great program, not a Tyngsborough resident, but
Right, no,
yeah, we've had some great programs, and
Yeah.
Stephanie Karalik and her health and wellness series, just
right.
all residents offering, to donate their time.
Are you going to offer the college prep program again?
That is a teen program that's popular year in and year
Yeah,
out. It
I'm not
varies
surprised.
a little bit from one year to the next,
Mhm.
whether it's financial aid or the application process.
Mhm.
So we'll do that at least once annually, if not more, depending on the need and the topic.
Excellent. Cool. So clearly lots of really cool stuff available at the library, always evolving as well. So definitely get your library card and go check it out. Your library card gives you access to not only Tyngsborough Public Library, but all the stuff in the consortium, as well as you can go to any other library with your Tyngsborough library card and take out books there as well, right? Physically go to other libraries.
Right. Borrow things through interlibrary loan. Drop
Mhm.
anything you can borrow anything here, and then if you happen to be in Peabody and
Mhm.
you need to drop it off, go ahead and drop it off. Oh, excuse
Excellent.
me, not Peabody. They're out of our consortium, but the 37 libraries in our
Okay.
consortium.
37. That's a lot of
Oh
libraries.
wow! I was about to ask you to name them. 37's a lot.
Yeah. Don't try to
We
name
have
37.
a little bookmark. we can make it easy for you. We do have a
Oh,
bookmark.
nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, and in fact, your library card in Massachusetts entitles you to use the libraries all over Massachusetts. If you're outside of your own consortium, you just have to take your card and register there. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Oh,
mhm.
wow.
Okay, that's
So
interesting.
someone who lives in Ayer
Mm-hmm.
can register their card here. They don't happen to be in our consortium. Or I, for example, spend a lot of time in Salem, so my card is registered in that consortium. So you really have access to every library in the
Your
state.
library card
Excellent.
anywhere.
Excellent.
You
That's
can take it
awesome.
anywhere.
I mean, to be
Yeah.
honest, you could spend days just in Tyngsborough Public Library looking at
I'd
the
like that.
music
Mhm.
and
I would like
the
that.
Hey.
books
Come
and the
here
kids
first.
stuff. Yeah, if
Come
you
here
have,
first.
especially, I'll tell you this: if you have young kids, 1 to 5, say 1 to 7, even, there's just so much stuff available in the kids' room, kids' movies, and all kinds of
kinds
really
of
great
things,
kids' books. 'Cause you can
games.
spend a
Mhm.
fortune buying all these kids' books. The games, right? There's
Mhm.
another one. There's toys. It's all kinds of stuff. But you can spend a fortune buying a lot of this stuff. And then
Right.
as a parent, you go 5 or 10 years later, you're like, what do I do with all this? Like now I got to donate it to
Right,
somebody, and then
right.
it's lumped into the library's book sale or something
Right.
like that. So then
Mhm.
somebody has to get rid of it eventually.
Right.
You know,
Right.
but you make use of these
It's a-
libraries.
It's
yeah.
very, it's enriching, and you're right. It's
Right.
cost effective
Right,
to,
well, that-
to
yeah.
use your library. Mhm.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, we all kind of, not always, but a lot of times we'll gripe about, oh, this stuff's getting expensive and so on and so forth. Like, free resource. Go get your library
Right.
card, literally free,
Right.
and you
Mhm.
get access to all this stuff. So go check them out.
Yes.
All right, so let's we're gonna start wrapping up, and I just wanted to. So before we start doing that, do you have anything else you want to
Yeah,
talk
just
about before we go?
one quick thing. I'm
Okay.
happy to talk about the resources. I do want to remind people that we are closed Saturdays in the summer. That starts June 22nd.
Okay.
So
I had pulled
June
the hours. I was going to talk
22nd
about that too. Yeah.
through Labor Day, we're closed on Saturdays. And keep that in mind when it comes to borrowing things for trips.
Okay.
Certainly the museum passes, if you need it on the weekend, you need to pick it up on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So just bear that in mind.
Right. Yeah, because the library is closed on Fridays, so
Mhm.
maybe in the future you'll be able to open up. But we'll
People
have to-
request
yeah, a lot of people.
very, very frequently that we be open at least, Friday morning when town hall is. Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. We'll work on that. We're working on
We'll
that.
work
one.
on that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So thank you, Sue, for coming on. I
Thank
appreciate you
you.
spending some time and talking about all of these really cool things that you guys have available. Don't forget, go get your library card. It's free. You can come down here and talk to them in person at 25 Bryant Lane, or you can go on the website tinglib.org. and get all of the information that we talked about and access to all of these different passes and everything else that's there. So you can check out the library of things. You can check out all of the music, or at least the stuff that's online. Anyways, the Freegal program, New Wave, spelled N-U-W-A-V, by the way. If you want to go check that out, all the legal documents. But you have to have your library card in order to use that stuff. So come down and get your library card, and you'll be good to go. I even have my library card, so look at that.
That's great.
Very cool. And I do use it quite a bit, actually. And then one of the more important things, or at least for the wrap-up anyways, is just to note the hours. So you guys are closed on Fridays, open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday and Saturday. So you can go in and check that out. That's on the website as well. Just go to About the Library and Hours, and you can find all that stuff. And then you mentioned you're closed on Saturdays for the summer, correct? That
Closed on Saturdays for the summer.
Got it.
And actually, slipping in at the very end, I do want to mention that we've had a Facebook
Oh,
account
yes,
for
right.
quite
We
a
should mention
while.
that, of course.
But just want to make sure that people know that we do have an Instagram account now, and we have a Twitter account. So please
very
follow
modern.
us on both.
Very cool.
And you'll hear more about our programs and our offerings, and we'd love to keep in touch with you those ways as well.
Excellent. So give them a follow on Facebook. You've been there for a while, actually. I helped to share out a
Facebook.
lot of your stuff, but also
it's,
Instagram and Twitter as well.
Tyngsborough Public Library on Instagram and Twitter as well.
Right.
Excellent. Very cool. All right. Thank you very much, Sue. I appreciate it. Hang on for just a minute. I just want to wrap up real
Sure.
quick before we go. So just a quick reminder to everybody, the play Les Mis happening tonight and tomorrow over at Tyngsborough High School. You can get tickets at fottheater.org. Also, Household Hazardous Waste Day, June 1st, and the Yard Waste Pickup, which today was the first one. I'm not sure if the trucks have already made their rounds, but I'm assuming they probably are at least halfway through. And then also coming up again on the 24th, so get all that stuff ready for takeout. And elections on the 14th, of course. Go out and vote your conscience on the golf course portion, and as well as all the elected offices. There are no contested seats, but should still go out and cast your votes and show your support for your community that way. Do your civic duty as it is. Also, the 21st is the town's annual town meeting, the spring town meeting, if spring will actually get here. So that's coming up. Ray Sam, can you pull up the weather for me too real quick, just so we can show that? But yeah, definitely come out to the town meeting, because depending on what happens on the 14th with the vote for the golf course, all the discussions and the money and all that part, that aspect of it will be brought up at the town meeting. So you definitely want to at least know what's going on, be helpful. We'll, of course, be broadcasting it live on Comcast 8, Verizon 29, and on our Facebook page, provided the gods of technology will work for me that day. We'll see. They've been working lately, so I'm actually optimistic at this point. But some days it's just more difficult than others, unfortunately. But yeah, so we'll be broadcasting that stuff at the very least on TV, so you can watch it there. And then otherwise, keep in mind, you can't make a vote unless you're actually there. So you can watch it on TV or on Facebook, but you can't actually vote on anything if you're not physically there. So that question comes up quite a bit, actually. So just keep that in mind. You do have to physically be in the building and have registered in order to cast a vote on particular articles. So just keep that in mind. So those are the big things coming up this week. I'll be back on Monday with the news, with more news and other things that are going on in town. And I'm going to quickly show you guys the weather. I really don't want to show you this because it's just terrible. I feel like I say this the last bunch of broadcasts. It's been like the weather's so bad I don't even want to show it to you, but it really is bad. It's just rain. It won't.
Yep.
I don't know.
Today, showers likely with thunderstorms possible after 3 p.m.
Ugh, I don't want to look at it anymore. All right, that's enough. We've looked at the weather enough. I'm looking at our high-tech weather center, and it's cloudy and ready to rain at this point. So it's gonna be lousy. So go to the library, right? Tomorrow.
Great place on a rainy day.
Great place on a rainy day. Get some movies, get some books, get some things to do. You can pass the time while it's raining. And enjoy it. Keep the kids occupied because you know they're going to drive you crazy.
Get a ukulele.
Get a ukulele. Yes, you can
There
learn
you go.
ukulele while you're trapped in the house with all this rain. It's a good time to do it.
Museum passes.
Museum passes.
There's literally no reason to not go to the
Right.
library.
Another great
Yes.
reason. Yep, absolutely. Tons and tons of great reasons. So with all that said, folks, I hope you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy it. Stay dry. Stay safe. Get some good books in, get some good movies, and have a little fun, and we'll just make the most of this rain, and maybe with all of it, we'll get bigger flowers. Who knows? I don't know. But that's all we have for today. Again, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a like, comment, share, subscribe on Facebook and YouTube. That really helps to get around all the Facebook algorithms, keeps it in people's feeds, and it also helps to share it with your friends and neighbors in the community so that they can get some of this information as well, because we try to put out as much valuable information as we can. That's it, guys. Have a good one. I'll see you next time. Take it easy. Bye.